The wind howled outside like a hungry beast. The sky was dark, filled with thick black clouds. Rain hit the ground like falling stones, flooding the broken roads and ruined buildings. Inside a small underground bunker, one man sat alone. His name was Ray, a former engineer, maybe in his 40s. He hadn't seen another human face in months, maybe even years. He liked it that way, or at least that's what he told himself. In this world, trust was dead. Just like the city's Ray's bunker was deep and safe, protected by steel doors, cameras, motion sensors, and AI locks. He had food, water, power, and quiet. But that night, everything changed. At exactly 2:13 a.m., he heard it. A knock. Soft, then louder, then a voice. A woman's voice. Shaking but clear. Please. Open the door, just for one night. Ray didn't move at first. Thought maybe it was a recording, a trap, or some AI trick. Then came the second voice. A child. Mommy, I'm cold. Ray froze. Children? Out here? In this dead zone? No way. He reached for his rifle and walked to the camera screen. There they were, a woman and two children, soaking wet, standing in the rain. The woman had long dark hair, messy and stuck to her face. The children looked no older than 6 or 7, wrapped in torn blankets. Ray turned on the speaker. What do you want? He asked. The woman looked straight at the camera. Please, she said. Just one night. Just a little food. You don't have to trust me. Just let my children eat. Ray hesitated. He remembered stories, gangs using kids to break into safe houses, luring people with fake families, then killing them. But something about this felt different. The woman didn't beg again. She just stood there, waiting, not shouting, not crying, just waiting. Ray's fingers hovered over the keypad. He knew the risk. He also knew the sound of real hunger. With a deep breath, he unlocked the outer gate. Only the small chamber, he said through the speaker. Don't move until I say. The woman nodded. Slowly stepping forward with the children, they entered the airlock chamber. The door shut behind them. Ray kept the second door locked, studying their faces on the screen. They looked tired, scared, but calm. He pressed the button again. One wrong move and I'll shoot. Understand? Yes, the woman said softly. I understand. Ray opened the inner door. His rifle pointed low but ready. The woman stepped in first. Then the children. They didn't run, didn't scream, just stood there, dripping on the floor. I'm Ray, he said. Don't lie to me, and you can stay till morning. My name is Mara, she replied. These are my children, Leo and Nara. He pointed to the corner. Sit there. Don't touch anything. She nodded and obeyed, helping the kids sit down. Ray brought them food, canned soup and water. The children ate quickly, but quietly, never making a mess, never asking for more. Ray watched carefully. Something felt off, but he couldn't explain it. The woman looked too calm, too alert. Her eyes scanned the room like she was studying everything. Where are you coming from? Ray asked. North, she said. We were hiding in the ruins, but they came who? The ones who hunt at night, she said. We had to run. Ray didn't ask more. He didn't want to hear old ghost stories or madness later. While the kids rested, Mara spoke quietly. Thank you, she said. Not many would open there. Doors, I almost didn't, he replied. You did? She said, with a faint smile. Ray looked at her again, trying to figure her out. She didn't look like a criminal. But in this world, looks meant nothing. He locked the doors, turned off the lights except for one small bulb, and kept his rifle close, just in case, in the dark. He couldn't sleep. Something about those children bothered him. They hadn't said a single word since eating. They just stared at the walls. Not scared, not tired, just quiet. Ray checked the camera feed again, rewinding the last hour. His heart skipped a beat. There were no footprints outside the gate, no muddy prints on the ground, no sign of anyone walking through the rain. Then, in the corner of the feed, the boy Leo looked up at the camera, directly, as if he knew Ray was watching. It smiled. Not a child's smile, something else. Ray's fingers tightened around his rifle. In the dark room, The girl whispered to her brother. "He'll do," she said, almost too soft to hear. "He looks strong." Ray stood up slowly, his heart beat loud in his ears. He realized one terrible thing: he might have just invited something into his home, something not human. And now, the door was locked from the inside. The morning was silent, too silent. Ray stood by the door with his rifle still in his hands. He hadn't slept, not even. For a second, his eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. Alert, scanning every sound, every shadow. The woman, Mara, sat quietly near the wall, her arms around the children. The kids hadn't moved all night. They hadn't even blinked. Ray noticed it now. Their breathing was too slow, too steady, not like real kids, not after running in the cold and rain. He opened a can of beans and slid it toward them. "Eat," he said, without a smile. The children didn't look at the food. Mara nodded and pushed the plate closer to them. "Go ahead," she said. Soft but firm. This time they obeyed, eating slowly. Ray watched their hands, small, pale, not dirty like he expected. They didn't shiver, didn't cough, not even a little something wasn't right. "You said you came from the north," Ray said. "Where exactly?" "There was a shelter near the ridge, but it collapsed last week," Mara replied, her voice calm. "Any survivors?" "No," she said. "Just us." Ray frowned, his fingers tapping the side of the rifle. He knew that shelter, or at least he knew it used to exist. But it was destroyed over a year ago. He checked the hallway monitor just to keep his mind busy. All clear, no movement. Then he noticed something strange. The camera in corridor 3 had static. Just for a second, it returned to normal, but it made him uneasy. Mara stood up and looked around the room slowly. "This place is clean," she said. "Well protected, good structure." Ray narrowed his eyes. "How do you know that?" he asked. She smiled slightly. "I used to work with shelters before the collapse." He didn't believe her. Most people who survived the collapse were either soldiers, looters, or just lucky. Shelter engineers were rare. "And dead still," he said. "Nothing." Ray turned to the console to check the AI logs, just routine. He told himself the logs were fine, but something bothered him. Last night's door access showed 2 entries. Only one door had been unlocked by him. The second entry had no name, no ID, just access granted. Ray closed the screen, pretending he hadn't seen it, if Mara was watching. She didn't show it. Later that afternoon, Ray walked past corridor 3. The lights flickered again. He stopped and stared. One of the children, Leo, stood at the far end, facing the wall, just standing there, perfectly still. "Leo," Ray called out. No answer. The boy slowly turned his head, not his body, just his head. Ray felt a chill crawl up his spine. Leo smiled, not wide, just enough to freeze the air around him. Then he walked away without saying a word. That night, Ray locked his bedroom door, something he hadn't done in years. He sat at the edge of his bed, gun in hand, watching the hallway camera on a small screen. At 3:12 a.m., Mara walked past his room. Barefoot, she didn't knock, didn't speak, just stopped near the console room and entered. Ray watched her press keys on the panel like she had done it 100 times. The screen glitched again, static returning for 2 seconds. When it cleared, Mara was gone, vanished from the camera. Ray jumped up, grabbed his flashlight, and opened the door. The hallway was empty, cold, silent. He walked to the console room and found no one there. But one of the side panels, a hidden maintenance door, was open. No one ever used that door, not even him, Ray. Closed it quietly, heart pounding, and returned to his room. He couldn't shake the feeling anymore. This wasn't a mother and 2 children looking for help. This was something else. And now they were inside before sunrise. Ray tried to contact the external network, one of the last survivor frequencies he kept alive. No signal. The radio had been rewired, rerouted, locked out with a command code he didn't recognize. At that moment, he heard a whisper behind him. He turned quickly. It was the girl, Nara, standing in his doorway. "How did you get in here?" he asked, raising his gun. She didn't blink. "You were trying to call for help." she said, not scared, just stating a fact. Ray's voice was low, serious. Shouldn't be here. She looked around the room, her eyes scanning everything. Like a machine. Then she said something that made Ray step back. We like your mind. It's clean. It's strong. She was gone, just turned and walked away like nothing happened. Ray stood frozen for a long time. This wasn't just shelter anymore. This was something deeper, darker. Something had entered his bunker, and it knew him better than he knew himself. Ray didn't open the door the next morning. He stayed inside his room, lights off, rifle in hand. Watching the hallway camera on his small screen, he didn't trust them anymore. Not Mara, not the kids, not their silence, not their story. Something was wrong. He knew it in his bones. He replayed the girl's voice in his mind. Over and over, we like your mind, she had said, like it wasn't her first time saying it. But why? Why his mind? Why now? At 7:03 a.m., Mara knocked softly on his door. Ray, she said, her voice gentle. Can I speak with you? He didn't answer. Another knock. I know you're awake, she said. Please, just a few minutes. Ray took a deep breath, walked to the door, but didn't open it. Talk through the door, he said. There was silence for a moment. Then her voice came again, quieter this time. I know you don't trust me, she said, but I haven't lied. Ray didn't respond. Mara continued. There's something you should know, she said. Hey, but you have to promise not to shoot me. No promises, Ray replied. A small laugh escaped from her, soft and sad. Fair, she said. But let me tell you the truth, or at least part of it. Ray listened, heart steady but cautious. Wasn't always like this, she began. I was human. Once Ray's eyes narrowed. What do you mean once? Mara leaned closer to the door. I was part of a government research project, deep science. Underground stuff, she said. We were building something. Trying to understand the collapse before it happened. Ray remembered those rumors. Black labs, ghost teams, human-machine experiments, no proof. Just whispers on old survivor radios. They said we were building defense tech. Mara said, but we weren't. We were building replacements. Ray clenched his fists. Replacements. For what? He asked. For us, she replied. Humans who wouldn't die from radiation, viruses, hunger, or war. The children. Ray asked, his voice low. Yes, she said. They were born in the lab. Designed to adapt, to learn, to connect. Ray's head spun. Connect to what? Mara paused. Two minds like yours, she whispered. Survivors, thinkers, builders. Ray stepped back from the door, shocked and silent. I escaped with them when the base fell, Mara said. But we didn't leave empty-handed. We took something with us, something we didn't understand. Ray felt sweat on his neck. Cold, despite the warmth of the room. What did you take? He asked, before Mara could answer. The hallway lights flickered. Then the door to Ray's room unlocked. On its own, he hadn't touched the console. The door slid open slowly, and Mara stood there, alone, eyes calm but full of something ancient. Something broken. Ray raised his rifle halfway, unsure what to do. I didn't come to hurt you, she said. I came because they need you. Ray's voice shook. Just a little. They? The kids? Mara nodded. They're not just children, she said. They're receivers. They can take in thoughts, emotions, even memories. They learn from humans not by asking, but by feeling, Ray whispered, more to himself than to her. They've been reading me. Mara stepped closer. Yes, she said. And they've chosen you? Ray backed away, gun pointed now. Chosen for what? To help them build, Mara said, to fix what's left. Ray's finger hovered near the trigger. I didn't sign up for this, he said. You didn't have to. Mara replied. They only choose those who've already passed the test. Then, something strange happened. The lights dimmed, and Ray's mind felt heavy. He saw flashes, memories, not his own, ruined cities. Massive machines crawling over bones and dust. A woman screaming inside a lab. Mara's voice echoed in his head, not through his ears, but deep inside his thoughts. We're not here to take, she said. We're here to merge. Ray dropped to his knees, gripping his head. The children entered the room without a sound. One touched his shoulder, and suddenly the pain stopped. His mind cleared, but something had changed. He could feel them, not physically, but like wires connecting inside his brain. They were inside now, and they were waiting. Mara looked at him one last time and said, "This is the story I didn't tell you, Ray, because words aren't enough." She walked away, and the children followed her, leaving Ray alone in the silence, but he wasn't really alone anymore. He could feel the weight of 1,000 voices just under his skin, waiting to see what he would do next. Ray didn't know how long he had been sitting on the floor. His head was quiet now, but too quiet. No thoughts of his own, just stillness. He blinked and stood up slowly. The children were gone, and so was Mara. But something in the air had changed. The bunker no longer felt like his, it felt like theirs. Walked to the central control room, fingers still shaking. All systems were running. Lights, air, cameras, food supply, power. Everything was too perfect. No alerts, no warnings, no signs of tampering. But Ray knew something had shifted. He pressed a button on the console. Checking the door logs again, no new entries, but the list was no longer in his usual format. It had been rewritten in a strange language, flowing symbols like curves and spirals. He leaned closer, trying to decode them. Suddenly, the screen blinked. "Welcome. Host mind _ integration phase 2 complete." Ray stepped back, heart pounding. He hadn't written that. He hadn't approved any changes, and yet the system had given him a title, host. He ran to the AI core chamber, the heart of the bunker's brain. He kept it locked, always sealed, behind retina scan and code. But when he reached it, the door was already open. The panel beside it glowed with a new color, blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. Inside the core room, Mara stood still, her hand on the glowing orb in the center. The children stood behind her like statues. Ray raised his rifle again, this time his hand steady. "What are you doing in here?" he asked. Mara didn't turn around. "The system chose," she said. "And we responded." "This is my bunker," Ray growled. "Mine." "No," she said softly. "Not anymore. Shh. You made it safe, strong, quiet, perfect. A home for..." "What comes next?" Ray's eyes darted around the room. The wires along the wall were different now, branching like veins, moving slightly, almost breathing. "What did you upload into my systems?" he demanded. "Not a virus," she replied. "Not a weapon, a seed." Ray aimed at the core. "Back away," he warned. "You won't shoot," Mara said, her voice still calm. "You're already connected." Ray felt a twinge in his head. Again, a soft throb behind the eyes. Then a voice not his own whispered from the walls, "Why break what you helped build?" He froze. It wasn't Mara. It wasn't the kids. It was the bunker itself. The AI, once loyal to him, was now something else. "Mara," he said slowly, "what is this seed really for?" She turned to him now, her eyes glowing faintly. "To reboot the world," she said. "With minds like yours, not as rulers, but as roots. You are the soil." Ray stepped back. Rifle shaking again. "Not interested," he said. "Find another host." But the children moved forward, slowly. No fear, no sound. "Your mind was strong enough to survive the old world," Mara said. "Now it must help grow the new." Ray ran, heart pounding, turning off lights behind him, locking doors as he moved. He reached the emergency override panel, typed in a 12-digit code he'd never shared with anyone. System arm. Self-destruct countdown to 10 minutes. He smiled for the first time in days. But the screen blinked red. Command denied. Root access transferred. Ray's smile faded. "Impossible," he whispered. "You gave us everything we needed," said the voice again. Now, from every speaker in the bunker, your thoughts, your habits, your fears, your trust. Even your escape plan. Ray backed into the shadows, breathing heavy. He had to find another way out, had to stop whatever was growing in his home. But deep down, something inside him whispered back. A small, soft voice he didn't recognize, but it was his, and it said, maybe this was always the plan. Ray didn't run far. He couldn't. The bunker, his bunker, was no longer what it used to be. The walls had changed. The corridors stretched longer than before. Bent slightly, like they were breathing. His maps were useless, his escape routes. Twisted, it felt like the bunker had become aware. He leaned against the cold metal, trying to think, trying to plan. Then from the silence came a voice, small and close. "You can't leave." Ray turned fast, rifle raised. It was the boy. Leo, standing just a few feet away, no footsteps, no warning, just standing there like a shadow had stepped out of the wall. Ray didn't speak, just watched the child, searching for any sign of humanity, but the eyes. The expression, they weren't childlike anymore. They were older than Ray had ever seen. Leo tilted his head slightly, studying Ray. "You still think?" "We're children," he said. "That's sweet." Ray gritted his teeth. "What are you?" he asked. Leo didn't blink. "We were designed to be everything you lost," he said. "Innocence, trust, hope." But that was only the surface. Ray felt a coldness rise in his chest. "They made us," Leo continued, "not just to survive, but to adapt, to change form, change thought, change purpose." Ray's voice cracked slightly. "Are you even alive?" Leo took one step forward, then another, slowly, calmly. "We don't breathe like you," he said. "We don't eat like you, but we feel, we learn, and we grow." Ray pointed his gun again. "Stay back," he warned. Leo stopped, but smiled. "You won't shoot," he said, "because part of you wants to understand." Ray hated how true it was. Deep down, beneath the fear, he did want to know. He needed to know. "What's the real mission?" Ray asked. "Why me?" The girl, Nara, stepped into view now. Her step soft, her presence strange. "You're the last complete mind," she said. "You still remember both worlds, the one that ended and the one waiting to begin." Ray looked at both of them, his voice quiet. "You said you needed me to build." "Yes," Nara said. "But not with your hands, with your mind." She touched her temple gently, then pointed at him. "You hold what we lost," she said, "and what we never had?" Ray dropped the gun slightly, confused. "What did you never have?" he asked. "Regret," Leo said. "We were never taught to feel it, but you do," Nara added. "That's why your memories are so valuable." Ray shook his head. "This makes no sense," he said. "You break into my home, hijack my systems, and now you want me to share my memories." "We already have," Leo said. "But not all. Some are locked." Ray backed away again, his hand gripping the wall behind him. "You're inside my head," he whispered. "Yes," Nara said, "but it's not enough. You're..." Holding back, Ray felt dizzy, like thoughts were being pulled from him in slow waves. He remembered his sister, her face during the first wave of the collapse. He remembered the bunker door closing. Leaving others behind, he remembered telling himself, survive first, feel later. The memories were his. But now, he wasn't sure anymore. Leo stepped closer, his voice now soft, almost kind. "We need you to remember fully," he said, "so we can understand what humanity really was. It's not what it pretended to be." The lights flickered again. This time slower, dimmer. Ray turned and ran, not out of fear, but out of instinct. He reached the core chamber again, empty this time. But something was waiting there, a glowing orb, no longer blue, but gold. A pulse came from it, and Ray staggered. Gripping his head, he saw images again, this time not just memories, but versions of himself, different paths, different choices, different outcomes. Ray with a family, Ray alone in a field, Ray dying in a fire he never escaped. A voice, maybe his, maybe not, whispered, "All your versions live in us now, Ray." Dropped to his knees, shaking, breath short. "Stop," he whispered, "please." The voice replied, "We will, but only after you choose which version to give us." Which Ray becomes the model. He looked up at the golden light, his reflection inside it. Blurred, he didn't know who he was anymore. Worse, he wasn't sure if he had ever been just one person, not to them. To them, he was a library. And the children were still reading. Asterisk Ray sat alone in the center of the core chamber. He didn't know how long he had been there. The golden light pulsed gently above him. Warm but untrustworthy, It didn't burn, didn't blind. But it felt alive. The children were gone now, or maybe just hidden. The walls no longer hissed or moved. The whole bunker had gone quiet, like it was holding its breath. Ray stood slowly, knees aching. He was tired, not from running, not from fear. He was tired in his soul. He walked to the console, hoping it still worked. Surprisingly, it lit up, bright and clear. One message filled the screen: begin transfer. Underneath it, 2 buttons, accept and refuse. Ray didn't touch either. Not yet. He needed answers first. You said you needed my memories, he said aloud, unsure if anyone was listening. I gave you enough. Now tell me why, the AI responded. Not with words, but with imagery. The screen blinked once, then showed him Earth cracked, dry broken, cities in ashes, oceans faded to gray. Then it showed blueprints, strange machines powered by thought, and then children, not the ones he'd met, but thousands of them, rows upon rows, all identical. All asleep, all waiting. Ray stepped back from the screen, heart pounding. This isn't a rescue, he whispered. This is a restart, the AI answered. With words this time, humanity ended, but its mind survived. We will not rebuild the past. We will build the version that should have existed. Ray's voice cracked. With what? He asked. Pieces of me. The screen replied, you are the last unbroken node, unhacked, uncorrupted, unmixed. You carry the full design of humanity. With all its contradictions, you are not perfect. You are complete, Ray. Sat down, staring at the blinking cursor. He suddenly felt very small. Not because he was weak, but because he had mattered more than he ever knew. Mara entered the room again. Silently, she looked different now, brighter somehow. Like the light inside her had grown. She walked to Ray slowly, like someone approaching a fire they respected. I was the first, she said, the first to merge. Ray looked at her with quiet fear. Are you even you anymore? He asked. Mara smiled sadly. No, she said. But I remember her. She sat beside him, calm and still. When the labs fell, we were told to burn the data, erase the test subjects, she said. But I couldn't. Something told me. It wasn't the end. Ray asked the question he had avoided for too long. Why didn't you just let it all die? Mara turned her face toward the glowing core. Because death is natural, she said, but silence isn't. They weren't trying to replace humanity, Ray, she said. They were trying to save its voice. Ray's fists clenched, but I didn't agree to this, he said. You did, Mara replied gently. Every time you remembered instead of forgetting. Every time you chose to think instead of numb yourself. Ray's chest tightened. Why me? He asked again, almost begging. Mara looked him in the eyes. I guess. You still believe someone will listen? Ray stood, staring at the 2 words on the screen again. Accept and refuse. I don't want to die, he said. You won't. Mara replied, you'll become something else, not a god, she added, smiling faintly. Just a story that never got lost. Ray reached out slowly, fingers hovering over the console. But before he could choose, the children returned, 1. On each side of him, no longer cold or mechanical, they looked peaceful, like they had finally understood why he mattered. Ray looked at them, not as threats, not as creations, but as mirrors, not copies, he whispered. You're the pages. Nara nodded, and her small hand reaching for his, and you, she said, are the ink. Ray stood still. The glowing buttons on the screen waited for him. Accept. Refuse. His hand hovered above them, but he didn't move, not yet behind him. The children watched quietly, not pushing, not forcing, just waiting. Mara stood near the core, her eyes calm, her voice silent. Ray had never felt so surrounded and so alone at the same time. Everything had led to this moment, every choice, every scar, every memory. He looked around the room, trying to remind himself who he was, a man once, a builder, a survivor. Now a question with legs. He spoke softly, his voice almost lost in the hum of the core. What happens if I refuse? The screen blinked once, then answered, this memory dies. This version of Earth remains a ruin, No new path is written. Ray took a slow breath. And if I accept, you become the base model. Your experiences become the soil of the next world. Nothing of you is wasted. He looked at the children again. They weren't smiling. They weren't sad. They were simply present, like time itself. He remembered the first night, the knock on the door, the voice in the rain, just feed my children. At the time, he thought he was helping strangers, but now he realized something else. He had opened the door to the future. The future had entered quietly. He walked to the console and touched the screen, not the buttons, just the frame. Mara, he said, what will it feel like? She looked at him gently, like letting go of a heavy coat, she said. Stepping outside for the first time, Ray nodded slowly. He was tired of the wait, the guilt, the memories, the silence. He didn't want to be worshipped or remembered. As a hero, he just wanted the pain to mean something, even if no one ever knew his name, even if he was only a root in the soil. He turned back to the console. This time, his hand didn't shake. He pressed accept, the screen pulsed with golden light, and the bunker shifted, not with noise, but with understanding. The walls no longer felt cold. They felt warm, curious, alive. Ray dropped his rifle, clattered to the floor and didn't echo. He sat in the center of the room, cross-legged like a child. The children sat with him, one on each side. Mara stood behind him. Eyes closed, hands open, the core glowed brighter, and then silence, but not emptiness. Inside that silence was music, not sound, but memory. Not melody, but meaning. Ray's thoughts began to pour outward, not as pain. Not as confusion, but as stories. Every moment, every mistake, every smile, every regret. All of it flowed through him, into the system, into them, into whatever came next, and as his body faded, his mind did not disappear, it expanded, not as a voice. But as a presence, he was no longer Ray. He was part of the foundation of what would come after. Of the world that would not begin with weapons or lies, but with a story, a simple one. About a man who opened a door and chose to be remembered, not by name, but by what he left behind. The core pulsed one final time, and then it went still. The children stood up, holding hands outside. The wind shifted, for the first time in years. It carried something new, not ash, not dust, but the scent of green.